now is former Newt Gingrich presidential campaign advisor, Lee Spieckerman. Lee, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
Well, how are you feeling going into Wisconsin? Talk to us about how you think this plays out and how important Wisconsin is overall for the GOP nomination first.
Well, as we just heard in the report, in your poll, obviously Trump is down 10 points to Ted Cruz, and he's down 6 points in the CBS poll. And according to the brilliant Larry Sabato, if Trump doesn't win Wisconsin, he would fall just short in their projections of sewing up the nomination before the convention. But I believe, you know, Trump has just had the worst week of his campaign. And almost exactly 8 years ago, Barack Obama had the worst week in his campaign because that was when the Jeremiah Wright controversy exploded. Oh. And he capped that off with his famous speech about race. Now, he had a lot of help from the elite media that Donald Trump is not going to get. But the upshot is that Obama 8 years ago managed to turn the worst week of his campaign around. And, of course, he went on to the nomination and to be elected. And if Donald Trump can do that, I think he's going to be well on his way as well. He's obviously got New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, California coming up. He should do very well in those states. So I think he's actually very well positioned. The only thing Donald Trump needs to do is decide he wants to win. And I think he has decided that. I can't tell him what to do other than he needs to go on Megyn Kelly. That's the one thing I'd recommend. And I think he told Maureen Dowd in her column that was published Saturday that he should probably do that. That's the only thing I would recommend is to try to get on Megyn Kelly's show. But other than that, he's going to know what to do. If he really wants to win, one thing we've learned about Donald Trump, he can learn. Yeah. And he can progress.
So it sounds like you don't think Wisconsin really matters all that much. Morgan, we know that he's lagging in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, good morning, Lee. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you since New Hampshire.
Morning, Morgan.
I disagree with you on Wisconsin. I think that it's actually incredibly important for, at least for the Ted Cruz campaign, for them to do well and to win big in Wisconsin. The way that I'm looking at the delegate math, I actually think it's very difficult for Trump to get to 1237 at this point if Wisconsin goes the way that we think before the convention. So if that happens, let's say for sake of argument he gets close to 1237 but doesn't quite get there. What do you think happens to his voters and the Cruz voters at a convention? Let's say Cruz gets the nomination on the second or the third ballot. Did Trump voters go away? And then similarly, if Trump gets the nomination, what about the 50–60% of the party that feel incredibly uncomfortable voting for him? I guess what I'm getting at, Lee, is I see a huge party split here. I don't see how you put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Am I wrong?
I do agree Wisconsin is a must-win for Ted Cruz. All I'm saying is I think Trump could survive losing it, but I agree if Cruz wins, that gives him momentum. On the Democratic side, you know, we see that Bernie Sanders is up in the polls, and if he wins, that gives him tremendous momentum for New York, and he could actually beat Hillary in her adopted home state where she won the U.S. Senate twice. So it's a very important primary. What I will say is I believe, contrary to what we're hearing from a lot of the pundits, the idea that we're going to have a contested convention is borderline fantasy. I say that because people are looking at 2016, but they're not thinking a whole lot about who the delegates actually are in the Republican Party. Right. Many of them are elected officials, or they're very close to or involved with state candidates. And in 2018, if we thought the 2010 Tea Party wave was a big deal, you're going to have the Tea Party on steroids in 2018 if you have these delegates abandon Donald Trump, or if there are any machinations before the convention. Yeah. If he's within 100 delegates, I predict if he's within 100 delegates, as Donald Trump would say, he's going to make deals. And frankly, you're going to see, in my opinion, that these delegates and the Republican Party and these so-called elites are not going to have the stomach to take this to the convention and allow the free-for-all that would happen there. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Trump will sew it up if that happens, and I don't think the party will be divided, provided that we don't have any behind-the-scenes shenanigans or this manipulation of the kind of stuff they're talking about where North Dakota has unbound delegates.
Right. Here, let me get John Hilsenrath in here from the Wall Street Journal. Go ahead, John.
I want to press you on this point about the worst week that he's had. Besides going on Megyn Kelly, what does he need to do to correct course at this point? Obama, as you said, gave that big speech to address the racial issue. What issues does Donald Trump need to address to turn things around?
He needs to keep talking about the issues that got him where he is. which is trade. I mean, when did worker incomes in the United States start stagnating? The mid-'70s. What a coincidence. That's the first time in nearly a century that we started running trade deficits. You know, what caused the housing bubble? The Wall Street lucre that the Wall Street bankers were luxuriating in, and they pumped it into the CDOs, into the housing market. So this is all connected. So he needs to talk about the trade issue, the Wall Street issue, the borders, national security. They're maligning Trump for talking about NATO. What he's really talking about is burden sharing. If the NATO countries and if Japan and South Korea simply spent 1% more of their GDPs on their own defense,
right,
that would amount to $200 billion. That's a third of our defense budget. So what Donald Trump is talking about is not crazy. It's entirely realistic. In fact, it's crucial going forward. So the upshot is he needs to talk about the issues that got him where he is. He's been contrite. He did a great job talking to Maureen Dowd of the New York Times.
Yeah.
He did a great job, I thought, yesterday on Chris Wallace's show on Fox News Sunday. So he's being somewhat contrite. He's admitting that he's not perfect, that he can make mistakes. And I think, you know, it's kind of like, you know, if you buy a Tesla and take it home to your spouse and show her, look how fast this goes, and she loves it, it takes her breath away, but you get 2 speeding tickets while you're driving it, she's going to say, maybe you should take it back. And then you say, well, wait a minute, look at there's no cost for gasoline, and it's very reliable. That's where Trump is.
Good analysis,
he has shown
Lee.
that he's
Really
a tough leader.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lee Spieckerman joining us there.
Great to be with you.